Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the podcast with me, Jonathan Puddle. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me start by saying I am so thankful and overwhelmed and touched by the feedback I've got from many of you on my last episode with William Paul Young, the author of The Shack. We discussed love, justice, whether he's a universalist or not, hint, he's not, and all kinds of things. And the messages that I've got from you guys are just overwhelming. They are why we put the effort in doing things like this, to bring to you a message of God's love, because God is so good and He will change your life. So, thank you so much. And if you did not listen to that, then jump on back and listen to that interview with Paul Young. It's been an exciting year on the podcast so far, and it's only getting better. My guest today is none other than Kim Walker-Smith. We had a really great conversation about her new book and worship leading and a bunch of things, so I'm going to get out of the way. Before I do that, though, I do quickly want to say, if you want to dig deeper into some of the things that Kim is talking about later in this episode about healing and wholeness, then please jump on my email list, jonathanpuddle.com/subscribe, because I write quite a lot about healing, tuning into your emotions, becoming emotionally healthy, spiritual growth, and so on. So there's lots more that you can go deeper with here if you want to. And actually next week, my friend Mark Alan Shelsky is on the show talking about his book, The Wisdom of Your Heart, which talks all about why God gave us emotions, what their point is, and how to live responsibly, learning from our emotions and growing from them. So that's next week. But right now, Kim Walker-Smith. All right, everyone, thank you for tuning in to the podcast with me, Jonathan Puddle. My guest today is singer, songwriter, worship leader from Jesus Culture, Kim Walker-Smith. Kim, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you, actually. For those of you who know me well, we're big Jesus Culture fans here in Catch the Fire World and Toronto. I saw Banning in Toronto in January. And it's like a lot of my guests on this show are me trying to introduce other perspectives to my charismatic friends. So it's actually really nice to just feel like, yay, family.
It's fun.
So, okay, you've got a book coming out, which we'll talk all about. But what's new other than that with you? What's currently on your docket? What's Kim Walker-Smith up to these days?
Well, someone was just asking me that the other day, and it's kind of sounded really exciting, and at the same time, it doesn't sound really exciting. But this year, I decided to be home a lot this year, and I have my oldest, we're doing homeschool. We started it last September, so I've been really busy doing that. And then my 4-year-old will be starting preschool in September. And so I did 5 tours last year.
Wow.
And all my kids come along with me. And we got to the end of the year, and I could tell my kids were like, hey, we're done. We need a break. So this year, I'm home, and I've got just a few events that I'm going to, but mostly I am home and just kind of taking a breather, letting this book come out, see what God does with that, and just kind of taking a step back with my family right now and just hanging out, waiting to see what God has next.
Oh, I love that. I can so relate. I have 3 kids, and I work from home, and I podcast and I write, and some people are like, wow, you're living the dream. And you talk to all these famous people. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And I was also up till 2 a.m. driving for Uber, and I change, I clean up puke. And
Yeah. It's a big job. Yeah.
That's cool that you're homeschooling. What drove that decision?
Well, mostly my son. I had asked him what he wanted to do, and I just thought, if he really wants to go to school with his friends, I wanted to find a way to make that happen. I wasn't sure how I'd make that happen because we're on the road all the time. But I wanted to find a way to do that if he really wanted to. And he was the one who said he really wanted to do homeschool. And he was really insistent about it. And I thought, well, maybe he doesn't really know or understand what school is. So I'm pulling up little videos, about kids going to school and riding a school bus and hanging out with their friends and, trying to make sure he understands. And he's like, no, I understand. But I want to do homeschool. And he was adamant about it. So I just decided to go ahead and do that. And I think like right now it's fine. It's easy stuff. We're learning phonics and things like that. It's easy and fun. But I could see that later on down the road, I think it might hurt our relationship if I keep doing this. So I'm either going to have to convince him to actually go to school, or I'm going to find someone else to help me with this, because I'm not totally sure how long this will last. But for now, it's great. It's been a lot of fun for both of us.
Some of my best friends homeschool. I was homeschooled for one semester, and then my parents were like, "This child needs more social integration. This is not working." So I have to be careful what I say. But I've always wondered, like, what does it do to a relationship? Like, I'm sure in some cases it's so much better for the child because you can create this wonderfully safe place. But I often feel like perhaps in other times, the safest place is far from me. With a professional.
Yes, I think, my sister homeschools her kids, and she also is one of the most patient people I've ever met. She just has so much patience and so much grace. The way she is with her kids at home every day, homeschool, just steadfast, like she's so good. And I'm like, I that is not me. I am not that way. So I I can't quite do that. Oh, sorry, got a little bursting in here. 1 second. Come here, honey. Come here. Okay, sorry about that.
That's fun. That one must be Maisie?
Yes, it was. Yeah. That was Maisie.
I have 2 boys and a girl, in that order.
Really? Oh, yeah. It is fun that my boys, they adore their sister. It's really sweet and really cute, actually. They're all really close.
Yeah, my daughter has ended up being the queen bee, undisputably, of this home. So look forward to the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I can see that happening around here. She's, not quite 2, but she really kind of bosses those boys and takes charge. It's pretty funny. My sister is really incredible with her kids and really incredible at staying home with her kids. And I think all that patience and grace, she does an amazing job wearing the hat of teacher as well. And I think for me and my personality, I am, I think I'm just better off just being mama and not being mama and teacher. I don't know that I have quite the really incredible levels of patience and grace that my sister has.
So that's a good segue. We learn about your sister in your book, which I've got right here, an advance copy.
Yeah.
And so for those of you who are not super in the loop yet, Brave Surrender, Let God's Love Rewrite Your Story is Kim's book. And actually, I don't know if this was intentional, but it's got this intense, fiery, red-headed photo of you on the front with this big word brave. And it reminds me of a Pixar movie.
Yes. Yeah, which it wasn't intentional, but we all realized that afterwards. When it was all done, we're like, hey, this is just like the movie.
Yeah, Merida, was that her name?
Yeah.
So that's you now. You have... you could star in Brave 2 when it comes out. So this is like kind of like your life story, your memoir, as it were, up to today, I guess. And we learn about your family. We learn a lot about your relationship with your sister, your mom. Tell us a little bit about why you wrote this and how it came to happen.
Yeah. I guess it all started with people just kind of asking me a little bit about my story, or how I became a worship leader, how I kind of got to where I'm at. And there's probably a little bit of a natural curiosity when you're used to just hearing someone sing all the time. And we're not, singers aren't always necessarily speakers. And I was not really speaking as much. I speak a lot more at different events and things, but back years ago, before I had kids, so this is, over 5 years ago, I wasn't speaking as much. And every now and then, maybe it's at a worship school or like a Q&A type thing. And I would get asked a little bit about my background or my story. And I never really shared a lot. I might just say a couple things here and there, or I might mention, oh, I gave my life to Jesus at 18. And that was always the one that like really kind of shocked people a little bit, especially years ago when I was in my 20s or early 20s. And they're thinking, oh, you haven't really been walking with the Lord as long as I thought you have, or you weren't raised in church like I thought you were. So it kind of sparked these other questions. And then people would start saying, we really think you should tell your story. We want to know your story. We want to hear your story. And I honestly, I didn't think I was really ready to share my story, but also I was just kind of like, it's just a story. Like, who cares? This kind of was thinking in my head. But as I grew, as I got older, I started recognizing and realizing, first of all, that hearing anyone's story of redemption is so beautiful and moving. And I love to hear other people's stories of what God has done in their life. And especially when there's something in there that I'm looking for, or I'm needing, and I go, that if God did it for them, he can do that for me. And it stirs up my faith and my hope and my trust in God. And I love that. I love hearing those stories. But also the other thing that I realize is that there is power in our testimony, and there's breakthrough in our testimony. And so much of the breakthrough that I carry in my worship leading is because of the private battles that I have fought and gained victory in. And I finally decided, okay, I see the importance of telling this story, and I actually want to now. And I sat down to start working on it, and I got pregnant. And I thought, okay, I'm going to set this aside for right now, like one big thing at a time. And I have my first baby, and then I think, okay, I'm going to get back into this. And I find out I'm pregnant again. And so then I set it aside again. And it gets set aside for quite a while this time. And then I had random, sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're people I didn't know. Hey, I had a dream that you wrote a book. Or Kim, I was praying for you today, and I really felt like the Lord said, it's time to tell your story. You need to tell your story. And I felt like I kept running into that everywhere. I'm getting messages on social media. I'm running into people. It was just coming everywhere, and I could feel it in my heart and in my spirit. It's time to tell the story. So funny thing, I sat down to kind of, okay, I'm going to do it this time. And wouldn't you know, I'm pregnant again. And I thought, this time I am going to plow through this. I'm going to make it happen. And I signed a contract with a publisher that forced me to have, deadlines. Yes. And so I worked through the pregnancy, worked through having a newborn, and then finally got the book finished and out. And this is the very first time that I've ever told my full story publicly is in this book. So,
well, I can tell you. Well, first of all, I would tell you that my wife completing her master's thesis was very, very similar process that involved a number of pregnancies. Oh, that's how this works again. Yeah. Huh. Okay, Daddy's going to brush up his understanding of birth control while she does her homework. But your story is wonderful. It is powerful. It's vulnerable. I think we have... Yeah, it's really interesting, like how you said that about as singers and worship leaders, there's kind of like this one picture that we see. And so it's really easy to form a narrative of our own about what their life must have been like, what their upbringing was, how long they've known the Lord, blah, blah, blah. We fill in all the gaps ourselves.
Yeah.
And then along comes the story where you're like, multiple broken marriages and your mother's, your multiple stepfathers, emotional abuse, physical abuse, depression, suicide. Sometimes when people say, I had to conquer all these things in the secret place, people are like, yeah, right, like your self-image issues. Wow, so hard. And then you're like, yeah, well, sure, like that. Also, we all have that. And like death and like tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. I have cried probably on every page. I have big emotions too, so I cry easily. But I've been really touched. I've been really impacted. I love the way you started up. It's such a great hook. Like the whole story of how he loves and how that song blew up and the video. And I was telling all of my friends who are jealous that I have this book and that I get to talk to you. And I'm like, yeah, so how he loves, like, she still wishes that video wasn't like a thing. And they're like, what are you talking about? That's amazing. I'm like, yeah. She like is totally self-conscious about it. And like has had to surrender it to God over and over again. And they're like, you're kidding me.
It's true. It's really true. That I feel myself instantly get just red in the face and hot just talking about it. Like a heat flash, just it's, I started off in the book talking about it because it really was kind of the thing that changed the course of my life, and Jesus culture as well. But it's such a crazy picture of just who God has been in my life, like being so impacted and changed by his love. And then him using that encounter that him and I are having, and also something that was really humbling for me to bring glory to him. And I think it's really special and beautiful that it is that way. It took me a while to get to that point, be able to say that. But it wasn't at the time. And for anyone who might be listening that doesn't know, but while singing How He Loves, we're recording this live recording, and just in the middle of the worship set, it just felt like God as love manifested, just walks in the room, and it's just tangible. It just feels like Jesus is just right there. Like every single person in this room can experience this love and feel this love. And I start kind of going almost into a panic. Like, I don't want anyone to miss this. I don't want anyone to miss out on what's happening. And I want to make sure everyone understands what's happening right now. And so in the middle of the song, I'm trying to communicate that and trying to encourage people to grab hold of this. And I just feel like I'm stumbling over my words, and in my head, I think, oh my gosh, I sound like an idiot. And I just kind of keep fumbling around. And later, we get through the song, I get off stage, and then I suddenly realize, oh my word, that was recorded. And I'm running to Banning and begging him not to put it on there. We got to delete that out. In fact, just take off the whole song. Don't put it out. We fought about it for months. And in the end, it was like, he was saying, I'm doing this. And he puts it on the recording, puts it on the DVD. He kept trying to tell me it was the best part. I thought he was crazy. And, the whole thing comes out, and then it wasn't, I didn't even know what YouTube was. I think YouTube was maybe kind of new at that time. So I didn't grow up with computers or internet or anything like that. I remember when I was in high school, we finally got a computer, and I finally created an email address, but I still was kind of like, what is this for? Who's going to email me? Like, I couldn't understand like the point of it, but there's no social media, nothing like that. No cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone. Anyway, my point is, my little baby brother, who was just a kid at the time, and he found the video on YouTube and called me and was like, Sissy, you're on YouTube. And I was like, what? And he told me how to get to it, and I pull it up. Sure enough, there was the video, and I'm like, what is this number right here? And he's like, that's how many people have seen this. And at that point, it was like 20,000 something. And I just, in my generation, if there's a video of you on the internet, it is not good. And I am just dying. I'm calling Banning and freaking out. My life is over. This is up here for everyone to just make fun of me or something. And Banning was like, no, it's amazing. This is so great. And and that was it. That I had to just work on surrendering that for the rest of my life after that. So there it is.
Yeah. I thought it was a really effective way to launch into your story, because it's like, I think for a lot of people, that's going to be the aha moment of like, oh yeah, right, of course. Like, and yes, that's the first video we saw. That's how we heard of her. That's how we heard that song. That's how we ended up singing that song in church, whether we sing the original or the David Crowder censored version.
Yeah.
Funny story. Somebody was recently emceeing, she preached at church, and she said, I think my favorite band is the David Crowder Band. And then she read the lyrics of this song, and everything within me rose up. I was like, that's not David Crowder. He's fine, but it's not him who wrote it. And I showed great restraint by not standing up.
Way to go.
So you say in the end of that chapter, I had to let God love me on his terms, which meant letting go of my questions, my demands, and the needs that I insist he address. And then basically you're like, and turns out this is a long journey. And then you roll the clock back, and we start off with Kim as a young girl. And, you share some intense stories, some extreme poverty, some really painful, abusive situations. For some people that may be really hard to read. I'm touched and blessed that you'd be that vulnerable with us.
It wasn't, it was not really easy to be super vulnerable. I still, as I'm about to approach the actual release date of the book here, I feel this I feel like throwing up every time I think of it, just because it is so vulnerable. But that's something that I've learned with my worship leading, actually. One of my friends one time said, Kim, when you lead worship, I feel like you're singing from your journal or your diary, like when you just sing from your heart, when you sing spontaneously. And that's really how I feel. Like I don't have a ton of differentiation between when I worship at home privately and when I worship on stage. And I just decided a long time ago that people are drawn to authenticity and vulnerability. And if I can be courageous and be vulnerable, I think it makes way for people around me to do that as well. And that's really the only way to freedom, as I learned and really detailed in the book, is that vulnerability and that surrender and that trusting God. And so my worship leading has been very much that way, has just been very vulnerable, very honest, very real, just doing my best to live without any kind of mask on, and just be who I am, and really put my love for Jesus and my relationship out there for everyone to see, and just try to lead by example in that way. So when I sat to write the book, it felt like this was the most natural way for me to tell the story, was to not hold back and to truly tell everything and to be very vulnerable and honest and as authentic as I possibly can, to hopefully invite people into that, and hopefully invite people into facing their own things inside of them, their own fears or insecurities or hurt or pain or whatever it is. And so again, I just wanted to lead by example, which I think people learn best that way. You can
absolutely
tell someone how to do something over and over, but you show them how to do it. And I think it's completely different. So.
Yeah. I'm so with you on that one. Some people often say, wow, you're so vulnerable. It's amazing what you shared on Instagram this morning. And I'm like, honestly, I don't know how to turn it off.
Yeah.
What's actually difficult for me is to not share my journey with people. And sometimes that's actually what God is asking me to do. Like, hey,
Yeah.
Jonathan, deal with this one in private, son.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can relate. And that totally comes through in your worship leading. It's, yeah, that vulnerability, I think it disarms us, right? It says, I'm not up here in a position of power. I'm surrendering everything in this moment, and if I can do that, so can you. And it totally draws us in. Yeah. There's this theme that recurs, especially through maybe the first half of the book in your earlier years, where it's like God kind of breaks in, offers you a moment of transformation or a different vision of life, and then you're kind of like back to normal life. And it sucks, and it's confusing, and the rest of your life hasn't been solved yet.
Yes.
And it's like, I think that's so relatable. It's like we don't want to maybe acknowledge or the pain or the disappointment. Like, God, I had this mountaintop experience. I was at this conference, or like, who knows what happened, and everything seemed totally great. And I went home, and my family still sucks.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that there is kind of I don't know how to, quite the right words to put it in, but there's kind of a language around Christianity. And when you're trying to convince someone to give their life to Jesus, and I don't know that we as Christians do it on purpose. I think that we just don't consider how it could be coming across to the person who has not yet decided whether or not to give their life to Jesus. And I think oftentimes that message that's communicated is, you give your life to Jesus and all your problems will go away. Everything will be better because you have Jesus, and that you will suddenly not have any problems or difficulties, and he's going to make everything better. And I think that there's just kind of this idea that you think, I'm going to have this incredible moment with Jesus, the point of my redemption and salvation, and then everything will be different and fine after that. And in many ways, things are different, but it's not that all the problems go away. And any of us who have been a Christian for any length of time, we know that. We know that the problems don't disappear or go away. But we know that now we have some different tools to deal with that. We know that Jesus is there to walk with us through that. It even took me a little while to realize that, like, oh, okay, I have these moments with him, but then he still shows up again and again to help walk me through. And I had to learn to trust that. And so I think I had to come to a place of realizing, first of all, that there are layers of forgiveness, layers of healing. It doesn't always just happen in one moment, everything gone or healed or taken care of. Sometimes there are just layers of things, and God uses the circumstances of our life, and his timing is perfect. I remember even after I had my first child, suddenly these wounds from my childhood felt ripped open again. And I thought, this is crazy. Why am I dealt with my childhood wounds years ago. Like, why is this coming up again? But suddenly, as a mother, and I would look at my baby and I would suddenly have these memories of me as a kid. And I just thought, if anyone ever tried to do to my child some of the things that happened to me, I mean, they better head for the hills. Like I could suddenly like even kind of speak to little Kim a little bit and say, you were innocent and it wasn't okay what happened to you. Yeah. And I think that even in that moment, I needed to hear that. I needed to feel that. Becoming a mother somehow opened up these deeper places inside me that needed healing. That I think the Lord was just waiting for that time to kind of press on those places. And so it's, that's many, many years later. And the other thing that I really realize is that Jesus, he didn't die on the cross for that one moment with us, the point of our salvation and redemption, but he died on the cross for a lifetime of moments with us, to walk throughout this life with us and have relationship and go through all of those ups and downs and difficulties. And so, yes, I think that I try in the book to really, again, just be honest and vulnerable about, I do have these really incredible moments and experiences, and you'd probably read it and think, she's good to go. Here we go. Let's get on with life. And then no,
Yeah.
I run around the mountain again, or I make a bad choice, or I get mad at God again, or whatever it is, but I definitely have the hills and the valleys for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what makes it so relatable. It's like none of us live up there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I really enjoyed you writing about was how you always had big emotions, and when you express things, they come out in big ways. I
Yes.
can very much relate to that. My whole childhood, I felt like I was being asked to talk in a lower voice, inside voice, Jonathan. And I often had this sense that I was like too much for people. And it's probably really only been the last 2 years that I've really kind of become deeply comfortable with my own emotions, with letting my love and excitement flow out naturally without like self-censoring. And like it's weird. But like you were saying, speaking to little Kim, I can oh man, like I've been doing a lot of speaking to little Jonathan recently. And feeling all the feelings that I've not been feeling for a long time, right? Just sitting with those feelings and those emotions and memories and letting my heart communicate to me what it's been trying to tell me for a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's like, you talk about surrender. I feel like I've had to, I think all my life I've been thinking about, like, I have to surrender to God. I have to surrender to God. And that's absolutely true. But as I've walked in ongoing surrender with God, I feel like what he's often been telling me, especially recently, and maybe this is just me, but I'm interested in your thoughts on it, is like, Jonathan, I'm so glad you've surrendered to me. Now that you've done that, I can tell you, you have never surrendered to your own heart. You've been ignoring yourself for a very long time. So listen to the story that your heart has to tell you.
Yeah.
When you talked about your healing with your counselor, your therapist, a lot of that really spoke to me, like about Jesus healing those fractured parts and kind of, can you talk a little bit about that maybe?
Yeah. So this was probably one of the hardest pieces to write about in the book and telling my story. But it felt really important to me to really be honest and clear about all of this, and trying to, the best way I can, describe this to everybody. And, my experience is that, in the world out there with, different counselors or psychologists, therapists, they have a total grid for all of this, for talking about dissociative identity disorder, fractures. There's so many different words and language around it, but just understanding what happens, especially to a child going through trauma, and what their brain can do when the brain will dissociate or create another person in order to cope with the trauma that they're dealing with or facing. And it's a coping mechanism. It's how many children survive traumatic and abusive situations. But in the church world, a lot of times it's kind of like, well, you just need to pray, or, just let Jesus heal you.
It's covered by the blood.
Yes. And there's not really always a ton of talk or conversation around the process that some people need to walk through, and that there actually can be a marriage of those two worlds. It's not one or the other. And Jesus was in this the entire time with me. This was all led by God and led by prayer. And it was just a journey of inner healing, and taking all of these fractures and these separated pieces of my broken heart and bringing it back together and making me whole and integrated. But in doing that, in that process, as you were saying, talking about kind of surrendering to your heart, there definitely was this process of allowing those pieces of me to be heard and to speak up and to say, like, what is hurting, what is painful, what is angry, instead of trying to stuff it down or to silence those thoughts or feelings, or instead of just trying to say, hey, you just need to get over this because you're a Christian now and have Jesus, like this kind of or a mindset of you shouldn't believe like this, or you shouldn't feel like this because you're a Christian. And I needed to allow those pieces of me to be heard and to be acknowledged and to say, it wasn't okay what happened to you. And yes, you have been carrying this weight. And yes, you have felt like you're carrying that weight alone. And yes, you have been afraid. And I'm so sorry that you've been so scared. And just acknowledging all of that, and Jesus there every single time, meeting me in that place and listening and not doing what I thought he would do. I think I thought that Jesus would be angry or would punish me, or like, why are you so dumb? Like, why can't you just get over this? Why can't you just let this go or move on? This is in the past. Or I thought I was failing him in some way. And every time my experience was Jesus meeting me in that place, listening, acknowledging my pain, acknowledging my hurt, and then providing the way out, helping me find my way to freedom, helping me find my way to wholeness and to healing. And it was always through him, through Jesus and through his love. And so I think that this is something I think really important. And really important, I think, for people to just talk about more, because I think that we do have a lot of broken and hurting people in the world who I know that Jesus wants to bring freedom and wholeness to. But it does start with that surrender, and it does start with trusting him to let him in. And it does start with allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling and to acknowledge the pain that's inside of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you I love the way you summed that up. It's beautiful. Guys, you need to get a copy of Brave Surrender. It comes out April 2nd, I believe.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. It's a short read. It's an easy read, but it's just rich. It's wonderful. I would say like everybody needs to read this book. It's just great. It's a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. So I asked a few of my worship leadery friends if they had any questions for you, if you don't mind.
Oh, fun.
And the first question that came up was, and you touched on this very briefly earlier, but how do you maintain an attitude of worship with screaming children around you, the crappy realities of life? It's great to be up on stage, but then there's laundry and marriage and parenting. I mean, you said that you kind of worship the same, whether you're at home or on stage, but like to my friends who, have children literally screaming at them in their face while they're trying to press in, what does that look like for you?
Well, I can say, been there, done that. Like, I'm like, okay, it is rough up in here. I'm going to turn on some worship music. We're going to worship. And I'm just singing my heart out. And, I've got one kid just crying. They just want, Mama, hold me, something. The other kid is like, hands on their ears. Quiet, Mama. Be quiet, Mama. That's too loud. I have definitely been there and been in that. There are so many things I try to remind myself in those moments. Number one, I try to remind myself, Kim, this is your life right now. Just accept it. Because sometimes in those moments, what makes it worse is I'm trying to almost reject what is happening right now. Like, this cannot be my life. Like, let's do something different. I'm trying to fix the whole moment. Yeah. And sometimes I'm going, no, there's no fixing this moment. This just is what it is. And I just need to accept that and just surrender to that. And so I do that. The other thing is recognizing that there are seasons, especially for parents who are working / stay at home parents.
Yeah.
Like I work from home or I work part-time, but I'm also a parent. Like, I know a lot of moms that kind of struggle with, the mom guilt of, I still want to work. I still want to have something outside of taking care of kids all day, but I don't necessarily want to be away from them all the time. Like it's a hard balance, but that is the key word is balance. And I don't think that anyone figures the balance out perfectly. And kids are crazy, right? Like one day they love yogurt and the next day they wake up and they hate it. They hate yogurt. And you're like, I just bought
Why is it yogurt? It's always yogurt.
It is. And I was like, oh, it makes me an insane person. It really does. And so you find a groove and you're like, yes, we have figured it out. We solved the formula. Life will be easy. And the next day it all goes to where, because it's just everything changes because they're constantly changing because they're kids. That's what they do. So I just think I just try to recognize, okay, well, this is just how it is right now. Like this year, like last year they traveled 5 tours. It was insane. We lived on buses and hotels. And this year we're staying home. And it's a little bit harder for me to be home this much, but I'm recognizing that there are seasons to everything. And this is what this season is. I'm staying home more in this season and it's good. And God is in that. And then the last thing that I will add to that is that when I am struggling to get my head in that headspace of I love to worship, I just take a moment to stop and remember what Jesus did in my life. I remember the pit that he pulled me out of. I remember the darkness that I lived in before he came. I remember exactly how I felt before he saved my life, before he set me free. And every single time, the moment I stop just to remember that, I cannot help but just want to worship and pour out all my love and all of my gratitude and my thanksgiving on Jesus. That never fails me. That always gets me to a place of worship no matter what is happening, because that is all still so fresh and so raw in my head, and maybe you gave your life to Jesus when you were 3 and your parents are still married and you had this really happy upbringing and you don't really remember any pits. But I'm sure at some point in your life, maybe as a teenager, maybe as an adult, maybe in your marriage, there has been a pit. There has been a hard point somewhere where Jesus has helped you through. And if that's wherever it is, whatever it is, like just going back to those moments and remembering what he's done in our lives, that always stirs up the thankfulness and the wanting to worship him and to be in his presence.
I love that. So one of the other questions then was sort of to do with who you are as a person, especially in worship. Like there was like this mold of what a successful female worship leader looked like, and then there was Kim. Like you had a lower register voice, you were a bit more quirky. Basically, you seemed to be a lot more free than many other like women worship leaders, especially at the time. Like you didn't have a husband standing in front of you or behind you.
Right.
Like you've carved out a space that I think some women are really appreciative of. I mean, some men, we're all appreciative of it. I was just going to ask you, like, is that you? What is it? How did that happen? And then I come across the story about the choir teacher yelling at you that you're breaking years of tradition. So, like, how does that happen for you? Like, how have you carved out that space?
I didn't mean to. I didn't necessarily do it on purpose. It just happened in me, I guess, just being who I am. So it wasn't easy though. When I first started leading, I'm changing all the songs to be in a lower register for me because I sing lower. And I remember once I kind of started getting in a flow and leading a little bit more, some of our pastors sat me down and said, "Hey, Kim, we need you to sing in the girl key."
Oh, no.
And I said, come again? And they're like, well, we need you to sing in the girl key. And I said, well, I am a girl and I'm singing in a key that works for me. So you tell me, what is the girl key? And they're like, like higher. And I was like, oh, like all girls sing higher because they're girls. Is that what you're saying? And
Oh
they're just looking
man.
at me like, oh gosh. And that's another thing. I'm a little bit too blunt for my own good sometimes. But anyways,
That's
I
good.
just
It's
said,
good for me.
I said, I will lead best when I sing in a key that's comfortable for me. Because if I'm trying to sing in a key that's like too high, it's going to be really uncomfortable. I'm going to feel insecure. I'm going to be so distracted by attempting to sing a song that is too high for me and wondering how terrible I actually sound. And I will not be able to do what I'm there to do, which is to help lead people into the presence of God. And they all kind of stared at me like shocked, like, we never even have considered this. And then they just said, okay, you win. Sing the songs in your lower key. And then it was, hey, Kim, you got to learn to play an instrument. Well, why? Well, because all worship leaders play instruments. And I was like, they do? No one told me the rules. Again, not growing up with all of this or not growing up in church or whatever, I didn't have any preconceived mindsets. I just had just me and Jesus and what I was learning with him. And I just said, no, I don't want to learn an instrument. So I'm not going to play from an instrument. And I said, besides, I can't move around and dance. And then it was hey, Kim, you have to wear your shoes when you lead worship. And I was like, well, why? It's just kind of restricting. It's so hot in here. And they're like, well, Kim, you can't stand on stage without your shoes on. And I said, why? Jesus doesn't mind if my shoes are off. And then it was like, well, that's true. Why? I don't know. I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. And then it was like, I don't know. We have no good reason why you can't wear shoes. Go ahead, take your shoes off. And it was just funny things like that I wasn't trying to upset people or break any rules or anything like that. I was just being myself and being who I am. And yes, I am extremely quirky, and that does come out in pretty much everything I do. I can't really hold that in. That's just been there from the foundations of time, I'm sure. But yeah, or there was I went places that said, I had people say, you're not supposed to be doing this. You're not supposed to be in leadership or ministry because you don't have a covering because you're not married.
Oh yes, the
And I
old
was like,
covering thing.
yes. And I was like, well, I don't really know what to tell you. You're going to have to take that up with God because he's the one who's opened all these doors and brought me through them. I didn't push these doors down. I didn't push my way into anything. I've just waited on him and he's brought me into all of this. So I really don't even know what to tell you. You're going to have to just take it up with him. And then I would just walk away because I don't have an argument. I don't know. I don't know what scripture to tell you or to fight against you. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you except you really have to take it up with him because I've only been following him. That's it. So yeah, I don't know. I would say, I mean, I definitely had my own battles with that as a woman who wasn't married and who did things different and was quirky and didn't want to sing in the girl key,
I'm glad you didn't do any of those things. Where
Yeah.
would we all be if you had?
Right.
How about like celebrity culture and being famous? Like thousands of people idolize you or a version of you that they think they have figured out. Does that affect you? I mean, even aging and beauty and all of that, like is that an issue that you wrestle with at all or?
I don't wrestle with the image thing. I feel super comfortable with I've definitely thought before, man, I feel super humbled and blessed and amazed and shocked. People still buy my music and love it. I said to a friend, at what point do I become not cool? At what point am I like an old lady? And everyone's like, she sounds and looks like an old lady. Or, the fact that I still go and do youth events and teenagers still love me. We still connect with teenagers. So I don't know. I'm just walking this out with the Lord. And I don't know how long this will last. I don't know how long this goes. I seriously don't know. Every day, I did not plan on being a worship leader. So this has all just been God and his plan and his design and me just following him. And so I just remind myself of that. Like, I don't really know what's in the future. I don't know how long I get to do this. I hope I get to do this a really long time, but I cannot be anything other than myself. So as I get older, that's just how it is. And get more wrinkles because I've got 3 kids and I don't sleep much. That's just how it is. I get gray hair. Well, I can go color that. So that's just how it is. And I just kind of let that be. But the one thing I did wrestle with, that it took me a while to learn this. Early on, I learned this. I've gotten better at it over the years. If I let the praise of people become really important to me, I end up needing that. So I end up feeling like when people give me compliments or say really kind things, and I take that in and it becomes important to me, then suddenly if I finish out a worship set and no one says anything, then suddenly I'm feeling like it must have been horrible. It must have been so bad because no one is telling me how good it was. And then the moment the criticism comes, it just takes me out. It's like I've left myself vulnerable to the enemy now. And the moment criticism comes about, my short, spiky hair, or I've got too much makeup on, or I've got, whatever it is, like the criticism, then it takes me out. And I learned a long time ago, when the praise comes, the compliments, I'm gracious. I say thank you, but it goes in one ear and out the other. I do not hold on to it. I do not put any value on it. I do my best to not care at all about what is being said. And as long as I can do that, then when the criticism and the attack comes, and it does, then it doesn't faze me. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't take me out as much, So I would say that was like the one thing that I've wrestled through over time, just being exposed to so many different people. And, some people love you and some people don't. And that's just how it is. And I talk about my book about wrestling with the people pleasing thing inside of me, and like that need to please people, and hating it when someone doesn't like me, just hating that. Like, why don't they like me? Why don't they like me? I'm a nice person. If they just give me a chance. And all of that, I can't say I've perfected it, but I've worked really hard at all of that, and not letting that be a big thing in my life or control me.
So good. Kim, thank you for everything that you've shared. Would you pray for us as we try to find that courage to surrender?
Yeah. God, thank you for every single person who is listening to this right now, wherever they are, in their car, in their office, at home. God, I just ask that right now, as they're listening, that your presence would come and surround them, that they would feel your tangible presence close to them and around them, meeting them right where they are, just like you do, just like the loving Father that you are. And God, I just ask that right now there would just be an impartation of courage and bravery to surrender to you, God, all that we are, all that we have, the things that we've been holding on to, the places inside of us that you want to bring freedom and you want to bring healing. And God, I ask that you would meet us in those places, and that you would reveal your love in those moments and in those places, that as we surrender those hard things, those painful things, those dark things, that you don't return to us with punishment or anger, that you just have love and forgiveness and kindness towards us, and you lead us to freedom. You lead us to breakthrough. And so, God, I just ask that for each person listening, wherever they are in their journey with you and their relationship with you, that you would just take them further, take them deeper, set them free, more free, and bring even greater healing to their hearts, to their lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
You've been listening to the podcast with me, Jonathan Puddle. I've dedicated my life to helping people access the freedom that God designed for them and to love others sacrificially, just like God does. Basically, I think we're meant to live like God Himself, and I want to help you get there. This podcast is part of that, and every week I interview people to dig into the rich soul of a Jesus-centered life. Make sure to check out some of the earlier episodes. I've had everyone from Olympic athletes to local friends to famous DJs and major Christian leaders like Brian Zahn, Priscilla Shirer, and Sheila Walsh. If this podcast has been a blessing to you, head over to jonathanpuddle.com and grab my free book, You Are the Solution to Someone's Problem. I'm pretty sure it's going to brighten your day. And if you enjoy that too, then would you consider supporting me on Patreon? You can get one-on-one spiritual coaching from me, as well as a private supporters-only podcast with unique content that I don't make available to the public. There's a number of other benefits there as well. You'll find me at patreon.com/JonathanPuddle. Thank you so much for listening, and may you be filled with grace and peace from the Lord God, who created all things, holds all things together, and is personally invested in you.